You will marry my friend. Tunde is ready, and this is happening now.
My stepfather walked into my bedroom on a rainy night and told me I was going to marry a stranger. My name is Amara, and the night my stepfather walked into my bedroom and closed the door behind him, I thought he was going to rape me. Instead, he did something worse. He told me he was selling me to his friend. And my mother didn't even know. Everyone said my beauty was a gift from God. But that night, I learned the truth. My beauty made me valuable, and valuable things get sold to the highest bidder. If you are hearing my story, it is no longer just mine. It belongs to us now. If any part of it made you feel seen, I beg you, don't let it stop here. Subscribe so I know my story reached you, and tell me in the comments, which part of the world did my story reach you? Let me know where this journey has taken us. Thank you. I stood in front of the mirror that morning, staring at my own face. It didn't feel like mine. People always told me I was beautiful. My mother said it, the church women said it, men in town would stop and stare, but I didn't feel beautiful. I felt tired, like I was carrying something heavy that I never asked to carry. My long dark hair, my brown eyes, my face, none of it felt like it belonged to me anymore. It belonged to everyone who looked at me, everyone who had an opinion about me, everyone who decided what I was worth just by looking, and I hated it. My bedroom was the only place I felt safe, the only place where I could close the door and just be myself, where nobody was watching, nobody was judging, nobody was measuring my value with their eyes. That night, Kofi took that away from me too. Walking through town felt like torture. Every single time. The men would stop talking when I walked past. Their eyes would follow me down the street. Some would smile, others would just stare with their mouth hanging open a little bit. It wasn't friendly. It didn't feel like a compliment. It felt like they were looking at something they wanted to own. I learned how to handle it. I kept my head down, I walked faster, I pretended I didn't see them, but I always saw them. I always felt their eyes on me, and it made my skin crawl. My mother used to tell me to be grateful. She said my beauty was a blessing, but it didn't feel like a blessing to me. It felt like a target on my back. I knew something bad would happen one day because of it. I just didn't know my own stepfather would be the one to make it happen. That night, the rain was so loud. It was hitting our tin roof like drums. My mother was at work. She worked the night shift at the hospital. I was alone in my room, just looking at a magazine, not really reading it, just flipping pages. Then I heard footsteps outside my door. Slow footsteps, careful footsteps, like someone trying not to be heard. My heart jumped. Our house made noises all the time, but this was different. This was a person. When the handle started turning, I couldn't breathe. The rain was so loud. I remember thinking if I screamed, nobody would hear me. Nobody would know. Kofi stood in my doorway. His shoulders were so wide they blocked out all the light from the hallway. He never came to my room. Never. If he needed me, he would call me from the living room or the kitchen. But here he was, standing in my doorway. And then he stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The click of that door closing was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. I pulled my knees up to my chest. I was wearing a t-shirt and shorts. I felt so exposed, so small. I wanted to disappear. He hadn't touched me yet, but he'd already violated me. He'd come into my safe space, my only safe space. And I knew before he even opened his mouth that something terrible was about to happen. I got a friend, Kofi said. His voice sounded rough, uncomfortable. His name is Tunde. He runs a hardware store in town. He's been asking about you. I didn't understand what he meant. Asking about me? Then he said it. He wants to marry you. The words didn't make sense at first. Marry me? I didn't even know who this man was. I'd never heard his name before in my life. My stepfather was standing in my bedroom at night telling me some stranger wanted to marry me, and all I could think was, this can't be real. This has to be a nightmare. Why? I asked him. My voice was shaking. Why are you doing this? Why do you care if I get married? For the first time, Kofi looked away from me. He stared at the window, at the rain running down the glass. Your mother and I, he said slowly, we're struggling. Money is tight. Tunde has money. If you marry him, it helps you and it helps us. He's willing to make things easier for us. I felt sick. My own stepfather was trying to sell me, like I was a chair or a table, like I was something he owned that he could trade for cash. It was all about money. That's all I was to him, a way to solve his problems. Get out, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was cold, hard. Get out of my room. Kofi stood there for a moment, just looking at me, like he was deciding what to do. Then he sighed and turned toward the door. Think about it, Amara, he said before he left. It's a good offer. You won't do better. The door closed, and I just sat there, shaking. The rain kept falling. My heart was beating so hard I thought I might die right there. The next few days were horrible. Kofi didn't mention Tunde again, but I could feel him watching me, waiting. He thought I would break. He thought I would say yes. My mother knew something was wrong. She asked me twice if I was okay, but I couldn't tell her. How do you tell your own mother that her husband is trying to sell you? I couldn't do that to her. I couldn't break her heart. I was at the bakery one evening, cleaning up after we closed. Mama Eno sat me down with tea. She has kind eyes, the kind that see everything. What's wrong, child? She asked. And I broke. I told her everything. About Kofi coming to my room, about Tunde, about the money, about feeling like I was a thing instead of a person. Mama Eno held my hand. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. You're stronger than you think. Those words saved me. I decided I needed to meet Tunde, not because I wanted to marry him, but because I needed to understand what was happening. I needed to take back some control. When I told Kofi I'd meet his friend, his whole face changed. He looked so relieved, so happy, like he'd just won something. It made me sick all over again. But I'd made up my mind. I was going to meet this man, and I was going to decide for myself what happened next. I wore a simple blue dress the day Tunde came. I wasn't trying to look beautiful. I just wanted to look like myself. My mother fussed over my hair. She didn't know the whole story, but I could see the worry in her eyes. When Tunde arrived, I was surprised. He was older than I expected, maybe late 30s, but he had kind eyes. When he shook my hand, his grip was gentle. It's nice to finally meet you, Amara, he said. His voice was calm, steady, not pushy. We sat in the living room. Kofi and my mother were right there, watching us. It was so awkward. The air felt thick. But Tunde surprised me. He asked me about myself, about my dreams, about what I liked to do. He asked about the books I read and the little garden I'd started. And he listened, really listened. He wasn't staring at my face the way other men did. He was looking at me like I was a person, like I had thoughts and feelings that mattered. It was the first time in a long time that I felt seen, not just looked at, actually seen. Over the next few weeks, Tunde came by the house several times. Sometimes we'd meet at the cafe in town. He never pushed me, never made me feel like I owed him anything. He told me about his life, how he'd built his hardware store from nothing, how he'd lost his parents when he was young. He was kind, thoughtful, and funny in a quiet way that always caught me off guard. Slowly, I started to feel safe around him. I started to see him as a real person, not just the rich man Kofi wanted me to marry. But every time Tunde left, Kofi would corner me. "Have you made up your mind?" he'd ask. His voice was always heavy, expectant. "He's a good man, Amara. You won't do better." That phrase, "you won't do better," it haunted me. It was like the voice of everyone in town, everyone who thought a woman like me should just take what she was offered and be grateful. I couldn't take it anymore. Something had to change. One night, I waited until my mother was home. Then, I told them both everything. Every single detail. How Kofi came to my room that rainy night, how he closed the door, how he told me about Tunde's proposal, how he made it sound like it was for the family, but really it was about money. My mother's face went pale. Then I saw something I'd never seen before. Anger. Real anger. Not at me. At Kofi. "Is this true?" she asked him. Her voice was shaking. Kofi tried to explain. He stumbled over his words. "I was just trying to help," he kept saying. But my mother wasn't having it. "You had no right," she told him. Her voice was louder now, stronger. "She is not yours to give away. You had no right to meddle in her life like that." I sat there watching my mother stand up to him, and I realized something. She'd always been strong. She just carried it quietly. In the end, I made my own choice. I agreed to marry Tunde, but not because of Kofi, not because of money. I agreed because I'd come to care for him, because he was kind, because he saw me for who I was. We took things slow. We spent months getting to know each other before we even set a wedding date. This was my choice, nobody else's. The day of my wedding was bright and warm. The sky was clear and blue. No more rain. I wore a simple white dress. My hair was loose around my shoulders. As I walked down the aisle, I didn't feel like I was losing myself. I felt like I was choosing my future. One step at a time, Tunde smiled at me. His eyes were full of warmth, and I knew I'd made the right choice. Not for Kofi, not for my mother, for me. Life after the wedding wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real. Tunde and I built a life together. We laughed, we argued, we had quiet moments that meant more than words. I started helping him at the hardware store. He encouraged me to go back to school. We were partners, real partners. I never forgot that rainy night when Kofi walked into my room. It was a shock, a betrayal. But it was also the moment I woke up. The moment I realized I had power. Even when people tried to control me, even when they tried to use me, I still had the final say over my own life. That night taught me the most important lesson I've ever learned. My life belongs to me. Only me.